At the very start of the story, we meet a young man named Kaiji. He was the kind of guy who never really had his life together. Still, he had scraped up some savings and bought himself a lottery ticket. But when he carefully checked the results, he realized he hadn't won anything. Deeply upset, he started walking back home along the street. That's when he spotted a couple strolling past him cheerfully. But oddly enough, seeing that couple made Kaiji smile. He drifted off into his own thoughts, lost in his head. The couple noticed his strange behavior and insulted him before quickly walking away. That only made Kaiji furious. He started kicking every parked car around him. Right then, some men jumped out of a nearby vehicle, grabbed Kaiji by force, and dragged him to a location. Their boss, a woman named Endo, showed up right in front of them. She forcefully took Kaiji and brought him to a restaurant. There, she showed him a document. She told him that a friend of his had borrowed 300,000 yen from her, with Kaiji's own signature on the guarantee form. Now, since that friend had suddenly vanished without repaying a single yen, the entire burden of that debt had fallen on Kaiji's shoulders. He would have to pay off his friend's loan. Hearing this, Kaiji told her, "I live in a rented apartment. How could I possibly pay you 300,000 yen? I don't have that kind of money." But right away, Endo told him, "You won't be paying 300,000 yen. You'll be paying 2 million yen. The loan had been taken out a long time ago and had gone unpaid for months. Interest had piled on top of interest, and now the total had ballooned to 2 million yen. So no matter what, he had to come up with that amount. Otherwise, they could do anything they wanted to him." Hearing that, Kaiji froze completely. He couldn't figure out how he would ever pay back 2 million yen. He told her plainly, "I don't have that kind of money. There's no way I can pay you." Endo then told him, "All right, I can give you one option. Tonight, a game is being held on a ship. If you participate and win, all your debt will be wiped clean. But if you lose, you'll be carrying that debt on your back once again. Think of it as a win-win situation. This game could change your fate entirely, and it could clear your friend's debt as well." But we see Kaiji flat out refuse to play. He told her, "I'll work hard for however long it takes. I'll grind through any job I can find, and someday I'll pay off every cent. But I won't go on that ship to play any game." Endo replied, "Your life is on the line right now. If you can't repay the debt, your organs will be harvested and sold. This game is your only option. It's the one way you can save yourself." Terrified by all of this, Kaiji arrived at the ship that evening. The moment he stepped aboard, he froze. He could see that a large number of people were already there, all gathered to play the same game. Every single one of them was drowning in debt, and that's exactly why they had been brought here. They all wanted to win and clear their loans by any means necessary. Shortly after, a host appeared and explained everything clearly. He said, "You are all here to play a game. Each of you will be given 3 star chips, and each chip is worth 3 million yen. Whoever manages to take all of their opponent's star chips will be declared the winner, and all their debts will be paid off." Everyone immediately erupted in noise, demanding to know what would happen if they lost. But the host waved them off without giving a real answer. He told them to stop worrying about losing and focus only on winning, then walked out. The host then handed each player 12 cards containing rock, paper, and scissors. He explained the rules. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. Whoever wins enough rounds to take all their opponent's star chips becomes the game's winner. After every round, the used cards go into a box. The player who holds 3 or more star chips at the end wins. They had 30 minutes to play, and all 12 cards had to be used within that time. After learning all the rules, everyone started shouting at the host again, demanding to know the penalty for losing. The host silenced them sharply, told them not to think about losing, and left. Then the game began. Players scattered and started challenging each other wherever they could. Suddenly, one man lost all 3 of his star chips. Guards grabbed him and dragged him into a room. When the door shut, the other players stood outside listening to his screams. They were terrified, realizing something very bad was being done to him. Right then, a man named Fune approached Kaiji and said, "I have a master plan. We can both come out as winners using this strategy. To win this game, all we need are 3 star chips each, which we already have. So if we keep throwing the same card each round and play out all 12 rounds that way, it's done. We each walk away with our 3 chips still intact. Kaiji loved the idea, so he agreed to team up with Fune. When the game started, Fune told Kaiji, "First, we'll both throw rock. Then we'll both throw paper. We'll draw every round that way. Our chips stay with each of us." They started playing, drew several rounds in a row, and dropped the used cards into the box. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. But then, without warning, Fune threw a different card and won the round, taking one of Kaiji's star chips. He told Kaiji, "Oh, I made a big mistake. I wasn't supposed to throw that card. I should have thrown a different one. Don't worry though, I still have a losing card left for the next round. I'll throw that one, you'll win that round, and we'll be even again." With that, Fune pocketed Kaiji's star chip and started the next round. But once again, Fune betrayed him. He threw another winning card and beat Kaiji, taking his second star chip as well. At that point, Kaiji understood clearly Fune had invited him into this alliance just to con him. He had played Kaiji for a fool and already stolen 2 chips. Now, with both chips in hand, Fune said his thanks and tried to walk away fast. That sent Kaiji over the edge. He stormed over and punched Fune hard in the face, furious at being deceived twice. The punch drew blood, which splattered onto Kaiji's cards. Guards rushed over and grabbed Kaiji. He tried to explain that Fune had cheated him out of 2 star chips, but the guards told him bluntly, "In a situation like this, how could you trust anyone?" Then they walked away. Now Kaiji had only 1 card left in his hand, and only 1 star chip on his chest. His situation was dire. He could lose at any moment. As Kaiji stood there trying to figure out how to survive, Fune suddenly shouted to everyone, "The card Kaiji is holding is a rock card. You can beat him easily with scissors and take his last chip." Kaiji immediately shouted back, "Fune's card is scissors. Hit him with paper and steal his chips." After hearing both of them, every player was completely confused. Nobody wanted to trust either of them, since they had already watched them deceive each other. On top of that, everyone suspected the 2 might be working together to trap the others. So no one believed a word from either of them, and the players started arguing among themselves, because now everyone's cards had been revealed. Right then, Fune offered everyone a new idea. He said, "Since all our cards are now exposed, we should shuffle everything again. That way we each get random new cards, and the game can continue fairly." Everyone liked this plan. They all ran over and handed their cards to Fune to be reshuffled. At that moment, Kaiji spotted a man named Ishida, sitting alone, crying, visibly shaking with fear. He had been beaten up badly by the guards because he had tried to flush his cards down the toilet in the bathroom. So he had been beaten and thrown back into the game. Seeing this, Kaiji told Ishida, "If you team up with me, I can get us both through this. We can plan together and both come out as winners." Since Ishida had no other option, he agreed to join forces with Kaiji. After everyone handed their cards to Fune and he reshuffled them, he returned the same number of cards to each player. But we see that when Kaiji got his cards back, the very same card from before came back to him. When he noticed the blood stain on it, he understood Fune had slipped him back his original card, not a new one. Once the reshuffle was done, Fune came back to Kaiji and said, "Let's play one more round." But Kaiji made a counteroffer. "I'll play, but the stakes are 3 star chips, a 3-chip bet." Fune pushed back, "You only have 1 chip. How are you going to bet 3? That's when Ishida agreed to put his chips into the same bet as well. Hearing that, Fune accepted the challenge. He was confident because he already knew Kaiji had been handed his original card back. With his current card, he was certain he could beat Kaiji without any trouble. When the game started, Fune slammed down his rock card and burst out laughing. He was certain Kaiji had just lost and that he was about to take all 3 star chips without any trouble. But right then, Kaiji placed his paper card on the table and beat Fune outright, taking all 3 of his chips. Fune was completely frozen. He couldn't understand how the card had changed, even though he had slipped Kaiji his original card back. So Kaiji explained it to him. "You're probably wondering how I won. I knew from the start you'd try to cheat me. You gave me back my old bloodstained card, thinking it was a scissors card. But I had already figured out your plan. Before the shuffle, I secretly swapped my card with Ishida's. I wiped the blood off my card and put it on his instead. And since you had been planning to beat me from the very beginning, I knew you'd mark your own card during the shuffle, so you'd get it back. You spotted the blood on one card and assumed it was mine, so you returned it to me. But the very trick you used to beat me is exactly what got you beaten. Hearing this, Funei exploded with rage and lunged at Kaiji. But the guards grabbed him instead and dragged him off to that secret room. After that, Kaiji and Ishida teamed up and played out their rounds together, throwing the same cards over and over, slowly burning through their hand. They were both relieved, since each of them now had 3-star chips safely in hand. When the game ended and they tried to celebrate, Ishida suddenly pulled a card out of his pocket. He had accidentally left one card unused. He hadn't played all 12 cards before time ran out, so he lost. Watching from a distance, Kaiji was devastated. In the next scene, we see Kaiji working inside a mine. That's when we learn the full truth. Kaiji had also been declared a loser in that game. The entire point of this game was a trap. They brought desperate people in, made sure they lost, piled enormous debt on top of them, and then forced them to work in the mines for years on end. Here, we get a brief flashback. When Ishida lost and the guards tried to drag him into that room, Kaiji had stepped forward and told them to stop. He said he wanted to go in too. He wanted to share in the punishment since he had been Ishida's partner. So the guards took them both. Back in the present, after Kaiji completes a full month of labor and receives his wages, he stares at the amount in shock. The pay is almost nothing, but there's nothing he can do. They're all prisoners here. When the mine manager sees that the workers have been paid, he opens up a little shop and starts selling beer. Everyone starts spending their wages on it. Watching from a distance, Kaiji feels the urge to buy one too. But since he desperately wants to escape, he's been trying to save every coin he can. So he holds back and just goes to sleep without drinking. Shortly after, the shop manager brings Kaiji a free beer as a personal gesture. Kaiji accepts it with a smile and starts drinking. But after that one beer, the craving only gets stronger. He develops a habit and soon starts spending his own money on more. The manager then nudges him to buy other things alongside the beer. And just like that, in a single night, Kaiji burns through his entire month's salary. The next morning, as the prisoners go back to work in the mine, a massive explosion suddenly goes off. Ishida is seriously injured. Kaiji rushes him to the doctor, only to find out that medical treatment costs money too. Nothing here is free. You pay for everything. Kaiji is stunned. He's only just beginning to understand exactly what kind of trap they've been locked inside. There, they come across a man named Sahara. He's been a prisoner here for many years. He tells Kaiji bluntly that explosion wasn't an accident. The manager set it off on purpose, just to drain more money from you under the cover of medical fees. He also warns Kaiji, saving money the way you're trying to won't get you anywhere. Even if you somehow save enough, there's no way out of here. The system was designed specifically so that you can never leave. Then the doctor speaks up and tells them there is one way out. One game. A game called Brave Man Road. Hearing this, Kaiji begins quietly preparing himself to play it. He starts thinking seriously about whether he can survive it. Later, while Kaiji is sitting alone, the manager comes over and tries to tempt him into drinking again. When Kaiji refuses, the manager offers to advance him next month's salary. That pushes Kaiji over the edge. He starts berating the manager, humiliating him in front of everyone. He says that men like him survive by sucking the blood of the poor. Then he turns to everyone standing around and calls them out. Why aren't you signing up for Brave Man Road and breaking out of here? Why are you just sitting still? Their business keeps running because of cowards like you. Right at that moment, some guards drag Sahara in. They inform the manager that Sahara has registered to play Brave Man Road. Hearing this, Kaiji and Ishida immediately register for the game as well. All the participants are blindfolded and taken to the rooftop of a very tall building. The host arrives and hands each of them a check for 10 million yen. He tells them, your task is to cross a narrow iron bridge from this building to the hotel across from it. Anyone who makes it across will receive the 10 million yen check and be set completely free. But he warns them clearly, the bridge carries extremely high voltage electricity. If anyone touches it with their hands, they will die on the spot. Everyone is terrified. One by one, they start refusing to play. But Kaiji steps up, takes a breath, and says he'll do it. He starts rallying everyone around him. Slowly, they all agree to try. Meanwhile, Inside the hotel across the bridge, a group of wealthy spectators has gathered to enjoy the show. Endo is there too, and the moment she spots Kaiji, she goes completely still with shock. As the players begin attempting to cross the bridge one by one, the fear is overwhelming. Nobody has the nerve to step on it and move forward. Then Kaiji draws a line straight down the center of a man's shoe and tells him, "Just keep this line aligned with the center of the bridge. Do that and your balance will never break." Everyone immediately draws a line on their own shoes and starts preparing to cross. But when Kaiji reaches the midpoint of the bridge and looks down, a wave of fear hits him. His balance wavers and he nearly falls, but manages to steady himself at the last moment. Just then, the sky turns dark. Lightning cracks across the sky. Rain is coming. Distracted by the flashing light, one man suddenly loses his footing and begins to fall. In a panic, he grabs the bridge with his bare hands. The electric current surges through him instantly, and he plummets down to his death. Watching this, everyone on the bridge panics. Their balance breaks, one after another. Several more people fall. Several more die. Inside the hotel, the wealthy spectators roar with laughter. They clap and cheer. But Endo watches in silence, and she is visibly disturbed. Meanwhile, Kaiji, Ishida, and Sahara are inching forward with extreme caution. But suddenly, in the middle of the bridge, Ishida calls out to Kaiji and tells him, "My legs don't have the strength anymore. I can't make it across. Take my voucher. Withdraw the 10 million yen on my behalf, and give it to my daughter. She's drowning in debt because of me." Kaiji tries to ignore him and urges him to keep moving. But Ishida can no longer take a single step forward. His balance is completely gone. Seeing no other choice, Kaiji finally takes his voucher and promises to deliver the money to his daughter. Then he pushes forward. But when Kaiji glances back a moment later, Ishida is gone. He had fallen. He was dead. What hit Kaiji hardest was the realization that Ishida hadn't made a sound when he fell, not a single cry, so that Kaiji wouldn't panic and lose his footing too. Having just lost his closest companion, Kaiji breaks down. All the time they had spent together, everything they had been through, it all crashes over him at once. He weeps. After that, Kaiji and Sahara push through with everything they have. After an agonizing struggle, they finally cross the bridge and step onto the hotel balcony. Both of them are flooded with relief. They start to celebrate. But just then, Kaiji notices an elderly man standing near the window. This man is the boss of the entire operation. When Sahara tries to open the door and step inside, a sudden violent gust of wind hits them both. It nearly throws them off the balcony. Kaiji barely manages to hold on, but Sahara can't. He is swept straight off the edge by the blast and falls to his death. We watch as Kaiji, with everything he has left, pulls himself up and finally steps inside the hotel. The moment he does, all the wealthy spectators burst into applause and welcome him in. He has won the game at last. The host is there too, and he is more thrilled than anyone in the room. Right then, the main boss, that elderly man, walked in. He was thrilled with the host's performance. Every wealthy guest in the room, along with the boss himself, had thoroughly enjoyed the game. But when Kaiji turned to the host and asked for the money from both his own voucher and Ishida's, the host shut him down immediately. He said that vouchers belonging to those who died would not be paid out. Only Kaiji's own 10 million yen would be honored. And after deducting all his outstanding debt, Kaiji would walk away with just 70,000 yen. He could take it and leave, or stay and rot. Kaiji started pleading. He said, "Please at least give me the 10 million from one voucher. I made a promise to Ishida. I swore I would get the money to his daughter, no matter what. Please, just one voucher." The main boss, hearing all of this, felt a flicker of sympathy. So he decided to give Kaiji a second chance. He told him, "Use whatever money you have left and play a card game against the host. Win, and you might walk out with far more than you came in with." The host then explained the rules of the e-card game. There are 10 cards total, split into 2 groups of 5. The first group has 4 citizen cards and 1 king card. The second group has 4 citizen cards and 1 slave card. The rules are straightforward. If both sides play citizen cards, the round is a draw. If one side plays citizen and the other plays king, the king wins. And the only card that can beat the king is the slave. That's the entire rule set. Kaiji was then asked to choose a group, king's side or slave's side. If he chose the slave's side and won, he would receive 70 times the payout. The king's side offered no such multiplier. Hungry for a bigger reward, Kaiji chose the slave side. What Kaiji didn't know was that winning from the slave side is nearly impossible. The king's citizen cards can draw against other citizens and even beat the slave. But the slave's citizen cards can do neither. The slave can only beat the king, and that's it. When the game began, Kaiji played a citizen card in round 1. The host played citizen 2.
Draw.
Round 2 went the same way. But in round 3, when Kaiji played his slave card, the host immediately saw it and smiled. He played a citizen card and won the round effortlessly. Then he said, "I can read your face clearly. I know exactly what move you're about to make." Hearing that, the main boss hurled a glass straight at the host's head. He told him, "You beat Kaiji without making the game interesting at all." I didn't like that one bit. So he turned to Endo and told her to arrange a 4 million yen loan for Kaiji, enough for him to continue playing. But this time, the condition was clear. If Kaiji lost again, both he and Endo would be sent to the mine together, to work there for the rest of their lives. There was no amount of mining wages that could ever repay that kind of debt. When the next game started, Kaiji gathered 3 citizen cards together in one pile. Then, he took the remaining citizen card and the slave card, shuffled them back and forth on the table, and then selected the slave card. The entire display was designed to distract the host's attention. But when Kaiji looked up, the host wasn't watching Kaiji's cards, and he wasn't watching his own either. He was staring at Kaiji's wrist. Kaiji couldn't figure out what he was looking for. So Kaiji played the slave card again. The host played a citizen card and beat him easily. The guards grabbed Kaiji and started dragging him back toward the mine. But as they walked, everything clicked in Kaiji's mind. He finally understood. Why was the host staring at his wrist the whole time? There was a chip embedded in his body. The host had been tracking his heartbeat. Every time Kaiji was about to play an important card, his heart rate would spike. And by reading those spikes, the host always knew when Kaiji was making a significant move. That was the trick. That was how he had been read and beaten every single time. Kaiji asked the guards if he could use the restroom to clean up. Once inside, furious at himself for not seeing it sooner, he quietly pulled Endo aside for a private conversation. He told her, "This time, give me a 50 million yen loan. I will beat that host. I promise I'll beat him, and I'll pay back every single yen I owe you." He pressed her until she agreed, and walked back to the table with 50 million yen and a plan. When the host saw Endo standing there with Kaiji, he went rigid with anger. But the main boss stepped in and said, "This is getting interesting. He's brought 50 million. You should play him." And with that, he added, if Kaiji and Endo lost this time, they would both be sent to the mine together, forever. Then, right in front of everyone, Kaiji grabbed a glass and smashed it against his own head. Blood started pouring down his face.
He walked straight to the table and sat down.
Because his head was now split open and blood was flowing, his heartbeat was already racing, fast, constant, and impossible to read. The host stared at him and understood immediately. The chip was useless now. This round would have to be played straight. Kaiji then let a few drops of his blood fall onto 2 cards already face down on the table, 1 slave card and 1 citizen card, which the host already knew the positions of. A moment later, Kaiji wiped the blood off both cards. In a flashback, we learn why Endo gave Kaiji the loan in the first place. She wanted Kaiji to beat the host, send him to the mine, and clear the way for her to take his position. Back at the table, round 1 begins. Both sides play citizen cards.
Draw.
In round 2, Kaiji plays a card, and the host notices blood on it. He figures it's either the slave or the citizen, and plays a citizen card to be safe. Kaiji's card is also a citizen.
Draw again.
In round 3, Kaiji plays another card with blood on it. The host pauses. He thinks to himself, there's blood on this one too. It must be the slave. He reaches for a citizen card to counter it. But then he stops. He thinks harder. Kaiji isn't stupid enough to hand over a marked card without wiping it clean first, not when it would give everything away. And then the host remembers. Kaiji had done this once before. He had wiped blood off his own card and transferred it to a different one, deliberately, to trap his opponent. Maybe Kaiji was doing the exact same thing again right now, wiping the blood off the slave card and putting it on the citizen card instead. So rather than play citizen, the host decides to play his king card, betting that the blood-marked card is actually a citizen in disguise. Endo's face goes pale. She's convinced Kaiji's plan has just collapsed. The host is grinning. He's certain he's won. Then Kaiji flips his card over. It isn't a citizen. It's the slave card. The slave beats the king. The room goes completely still. Back in the mine, every prisoner watching on a monitor erupts in joy. They had all been following every second of it. The host stares at the table, unable to accept what just happened. Kaiji then explained everything calmly. From the beginning, my plan was this. I put blood on 2 cards and left it there, slightly visible. Then I pretended to swap one of the cards. But I never actually swapped anything. I left the blood on the slave card exactly where it was. And, because of that, you walked right into the trap I built for you. Enraged, the host lunged at Kaiji. The guards grabbed him and brought him before the main boss. The boss beat him with a cane. And for losing the game, the host was sentenced to work in the mine for the rest of his life. After that, Kaiji received his full winnings, 500 million yen. He went with Endo to celebrate, and they drank together. He paid her back not just the 50 million she had loaned him, but a full 300 million. Then Kaiji drank his beer, feeling the weight finally lift off his shoulders, but shortly after, his head started spinning. Then he blacked out. When he came to, Endo was gone. So was all the money. Kaiji searched everywhere for her, completely lost. Then he found a letter in his pocket. She had slipped it in before leaving. She had drugged him to steal the money. In the letter, she explained everything. She wrote that the 50 million she had lent him had been accumulating interest at 30% every 10 minutes. After calculating all of that, she had taken what she was owed. On top of that, she deducted a penalty for the car Kaiji had damaged the day they first met. After all those deductions, only 1.4 million yen remained, which she had left for him in a safe place. Kaiji sat in silence, stunned. He had fought through everything, won against impossible odds, earned an enormous sum, and now had almost nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, Endo gathered all the money and prepared to disappear. Before she left, she dropped her old ID card, her old identity, into a river and walked away without looking back. On the other side of the city, we see Ishida's daughter, working at a gaming club. Out of nowhere, a letter arrives for her. Inside is some money, and the voucher that Ishida had once handed to Kaiji on that bridge. She runs outside, looking for Kaiji in every direction. But Kaiji is nowhere to be seen. He had already given away everything he had left, just to keep the promise he had made to his closest friend. With nothing in his pockets and nowhere in particular to go, Kaiji walks away. But despite everything, despite losing it all, there is a quiet happiness in him, because, in the end, he kept his word. And on that note, the film comes to an end.